I co-authored this book with my daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton, and I can tell you, it was a real joy. Did you know that there are more than 75 real princesses in the world? Did you know that? You didn't know that. I didn't think you did. I didn't know it before about 2 weeks ago. And they work so hard for their countries. They have charities that they donate to. They help their people. They represent more than just tiaras and glitter. Our little princess in this book celebrates her inner sparkle. Her name is Geraldine, and I'm going to put this in this microphone here so I can turn my pages and read to you. Okay. Oh, thank you. I love you too. Now that's going to go, whoa, come back here this minute. Got it? All right, can you still hear me? Okay. Our little fairy princess is called Geraldine, but people call her Jerry. And she's convinced that she is a real fairy princess, but despite all the evidence to the contrary, you'll find out as we go. She says, "Hi, I'm Geraldine. I'm a fairy princess. Hardly anybody believes me, but I have a sparkly feeling inside that tells me it's true. I spend most of my time spreading my sparkle however I can. For instance, I always conduct myself in a princessly fashion. My wings and my crown help, of course. I add a creative touch to everything I do, and I try to make somebody smile at least once a day. Fairy princesses care a lot about the happiness of their people. I don't guess you can see these pictures, but they're really sweet. She's singing to all her toys. So she then goes on to say, "Today I got some fantastic news. My Aunt Sue is getting married to Mr. Flanagan, the fire chief. And guess what? I get to be their flower girl. Perfect. I can just picture myself walking down the aisle with Aunt Sue in her long white wedding dress with the organ playing and hundreds of people smiling around us." Mummy says that's not exactly the way it's going to be. Aunt Sue wants to get married right here in our garden. Well, at first I'm disappointed, but then I realize that means I can put my royal stamp on everything and make sure there's plenty of sparkle. Fairy princesses are at their best on festive occasions. We don't have much time, so we have to get to work right away. Daddy mows the lawn and Mummy prunes the roses. My brother Stuart practices "Here Comes the Bride" on his trumpet. It's my job to make everything look as sparkly as possible. I hang ribbons on all the bushes and I stick hearts in the flower beds. I start to paint huge glittery signs, but Mum says sometimes less is more. So I paint smaller signs and I use my brightest colors and just a dash of pink glitter. Fairy princesses know how to make a little go a long way. Come on, Paige. Time to make the wedding cake. I suggest 3 layers. 1 chocolate, 1 banana, 1 red velvet, yuck, with raspberry filling, a marzipan shell, and vanilla icing as well. Daddy says that Aunt Sue prefers a simple lemon cake, but that I can help decorate it. So I use as many bells and sprinkles and flowers as I can. Fairy princesses have exquisite taste. I start to fill little bags with rice to throw at the bride and groom. But Stuart, my brother, tells me rice isn't used anymore because it's bad for the birds. It makes them explode. Yikes! We use birdseed instead. Any fairy princess knows that exploding birds can just ruin a wedding. Now I have to practice my flower girl walk. Petal tossing can be tricky, and I need to get it just right. I discover that the petals go higher if I add some pirouettes and leaps. Mum says a simple step-together princess walk is best for a wedding. Even a fairy princess has to learn the art of compromise. Finally, the big day arrives. I leap out of bed and I throw open the curtains. It's raining. All my decorations are a soggy mess. What a disaster. This is going to be the most unsparkly day in wedding history. Aunt Sue arrives with Grandma. Rain on a wedding is good luck, she says, but I'm not sure that Aunt Sue agrees. We go up to my bedroom to get dressed. Aunt Sue hands me a big box. It's my flower girl dress. I hope it's made of silk, covered with lots of flowers and many, many petticoats. It turns out to be a plain white cotton dress with holes in it. Aunt Sue explains that it's the same material as her dress, and it's called eyelet. Eyelet is a kind of lace. I think it's more of an eyesore myself. Aunt Sue looks at me and says, something's missing. I know, my very fairy flower girl princess needs her wings and her crown. Hooray! I dash for the closet and I pull out my favorite wings and tiara. Aunt Sue nods. Perfect. She even lets me wear my pink high tops. So now I feel my sparkle returning, and I have to admit that Aunt Sue looks pretty in her dress too. The wedding is about to begin. We rush downstairs and we find a surprise. The rain has stopped. Everyone is waiting for us in the garden. I get to go first. In front of Aunt Sue, my heart is pounding with excitement. Stuart plays his trumpet and everyone stands up. I do my best princess walk, scattering my rose petals in graceful arcs. Fairy princesses always shine when they're in the spotlight. The minister says the marrying words, and Aunt Sue and Mr. Flanagan say, I do. Mr. Flanagan slips the ring on Aunt Sue's finger, and they kiss. Aunt Sue's eyes sparkle with love and happiness. Daddy hugs Mummy. Grandma wipes a tear from her cheek. Everybody cheers. I suddenly realize that the right kind of sparkle is all it takes to make a perfect day. And that's the end of that story. So somehow the wedding got done no matter what. And I'm just wondering if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask. I can see hands going up out here. How about you, young lady in green?
Here we go. I've got a mic for you right here. Hey, excuse me.
I just wanted to say that you're like my favorite person ever, and Mandy is one of my favorite books ever.
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
And I was just wondering, what's one of your favorite memories from any of the films you've ever done?
One of the favorite memories from any film I've ever done. Well, there's a funny memory in The Sound of Music. You know how I... You know how I walk across that big field at the beginning and I turn around like this? Well, that scene was shot from a helicopter with a very brave man hanging out the side of it with a camera. And every time we did the shot many times just to make sure that he got it right and that I was in focus and everything. And every time they finished the shot, he would go back to the end of the field and start again. But the downdraft from the helicopter engines was so strong that it flattened me into the grass. So eventually I got so mad I was spitting hay and clods of earth and trying to stand up and getting very cross, but nothing worked. Every time he went around me to start again, down I went into the field. So finally I shook my fist at him and I said, "Can't you make a bigger circle?" And all I got was a thumbs up and let's go one more time. So that's one of my memories. Who else has a question?
Julie, I believe over here we have a question.
Okay, where are you?
Right over here.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Hello, I just want to say that I've watched Mary Poppins several times and it's still one of my favorite movies.
Thank you.
And what I was wondering is, I know that you've done Broadway before you started doing movies, and I was wondering, did you do any other ones besides My Fair Lady?
Oh, yeah. I came to Broadway when I was quite young, and I made my debut on Broadway in a little play, which is now done in a lot of high schools, called The Boyfriend. Does anybody know that play? Wow. Well, I was the lady that was lucky enough to come to America and play in that lovely show. And it was a huge hit on Broadway, which was miraculous. And from that show, they asked me if I would like to do My Fair Lady. And from that show, they asked me if I would like to do Queen Guinevere in Camelot. And then one day, Walt Disney came to see Camelot, and he came backstage to meet me, and he said, "I wonder if you'd like to come to Hollywood to see what I'm doing with Mary Poppins." And I said, "Oh, Mr. Disney, I would love it, but I'm just about to have a baby." And he said, "Oh, that's all right, we'll wait." And he did wait, and so eventually I went to Hollywood, and the rest I think you know. Lots of hands up down here. Have you got anybody there, Genevieve?
Well, would anyone around here like to ask a question? I see someone up here.
There's a lady, there's two young ladies.
Excuse me.
And they have their crowns on.
You have a question?
Julie, I just want to tell you you're wonderful. I'm Rose Parvin. I wrote 9 books in 1 year and brought the appreciation.
9 books in 1 year? How do you do that?
This is your gift. I pioneered psychology of prevention, health, and excellence and brought the appreciation of music.
Good for you. Let's give her a round of applause.
This is a gift for you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, since it's been 1994 that I wrote those books, and I brought the dignity of women much higher because the ceiling was very
low in those days, yes.
And then the pressure that I have felt and censorship and defamation and plagiarism has been unreal. I have revelatory music pouring out of me also that I love to make that music. Did you ever have those kinds of blocks, and how did you get through to them, and what do you recommend to me as far as tearing down these walls of censorship when I'm guiding everyone and everyone's blossoming and my own voice is gone?
I think everyone is blossoming, and maybe because of your books, some of the good things that are happening to us all these days have become more possible.
Yes.
Don't stop writing. Just keep writing.
Well, it's the guidance too, and I really appreciate it. I just love you, and
Thank
I
you.
want you to stand by stopping censorship and bullyism.
I do that wherever I go. Now let me answer a couple of other younger
Julie,
children. Where are you?
We have a young princess right here.
Oh,
with her
and a pretty
lovely
one.
crown.
Hello.
And she has a wonderful question for you.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to know that I love Mandy and I love the last 3 really great rain doodles. And I was wondering where you got your inspiration for writing, because they're full of imagination.
I kind of fell into that by accident. Would you believe that Mandy's about 40 years old? I wrote that book about 40 years ago, and I was playing a game with my children that required a forfeit if you lost. And guess who was the first one to lose the game? Me. So I said, oh, what will my forfeit be? And my children said, write us a story. And this is absolutely true. And I thought, well, maybe I can write a story, particularly for my 2 stepchildren, who were new children for me. And about a year later, Mandy was the book that I wrote. So, and then after that, I enjoyed it so much, and I've been writing ever since.
That's a great question, Noah. Thank you.
Now we have one more question from Colette, who's also a princess here. Here we go.
Hey, Colette.
What was your favorite movie that you acted in?
My favorite movie that I acted in. I'm going to be a real wimp here and say they were all special in different ways. Honestly, well, think about it. If you do The Sound of Music, you have the lovely children and you have the mountains and the music. If you do Mary Poppins, you've got Walt Disney and animation and goodness knows what. And other films that I've made have taught me so much, and it's either location or people that I work with or the director or the story. I guess really probably Sound of Music when all is said and done.